You know, I was just thinking, right? I was just thinking that when do you think of yourself like a business? Like, really think about that, right? Like, does it start when you first get your first job? You know what I'm saying? When you go to college, is that when you start thinking of yourself as a business? In my opinion, right? I feel like it should start way before that. I feel like you should be starting very earlier than that. You know what I'm saying? Because my thing of it is this, right? The earlier you think about it, I mean, the earlier you start to think of yourself as a business, I feel like that's the start of your process of you starting to come into an understanding. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'll give you an example, right? I was reading something. I was watching something a while back, and I heard this parent was talking about her child, and she was like, it was successful, business owner or whatever. And this lady was saying with her kid was like 4 or 5. And as the kids started going to elementary, kindergarten, and so on, what the mom was doing was she'd give her kid an allowance. But what she did, if she gave the kid, just for example, I'm gonna say $20, right? She would deduct taxes out of the allowance. Now that do sound crazy, right? Like, dang, you shortchanging your child. But I feel like that's the process, that's the start of it right there. Is to expose your children to a business mind type set. You feel me? Like, just think about that. A young child growing up having an understanding of the basic knowledge of what taxes are. You know what I'm saying? Like, really think about that. You know? It's like at a young age, you get an allowance, but then, your parents take taxes out of your allowance. I know it'll sound harsh, or it'll sound at the beginning, it'll be like, dang, like, why would you take that money from? Why would you take the taxes out? Well, I personally feel like, and I know a lot of parents. I'm a parent myself, 2 girls, and I'm not the only parent that feel this way. I feel like that's a good step. You know what I'm saying? That's a good step when you raising kids is to take, if you give them allowance or whatever, start taking taxes out of it and explaining to your child why you taking tax out of it. You trying to get them prepared to where when they start to be coming to of age, going into adulthood, they're able to understand like the knowledge or the understanding of what taxes are, because you hear about all these celebrities. You hear about all these people having these tax issues, especially in America. You know what I'm saying? When you make that money, man, you got to pay them taxes, whether you hitting the lottery, you feel me? You done got a bonus at your job, you done won some type of cash reward. You got to pay taxes on all that. You feel me? And the more you familiar with it and understand deductions, you know what I'm saying? Just think about that. When you start learning that at a young age, when you learn that at a young age, just imagine if you consider opening up your own business, huh? See, it's all about the mentality, the thinking, the process. And the more you familiar with it, the more you start to get an understanding of it. Just though that one little thing, you get an allowance. Some people be like, dang, that's shady. But no, is it really shady? Or are you setting up your kid for success? or you want to keep them hidden, or keep them in this bubble. But when they go out there in life, in real life, and they have to be around different people, they have to be around different type of individuals, whether it's a group of people or a corporation or a private owned business, whatever, or just everyday people they're going to deal with when they talking about spending cash, going into stores, you finally getting your first job, knowing how to put the deductions, the proper deductions you need to put on your W-4. You know what I'm saying? It's like those little things. I feel like you planting the seed. So by giving your kid allowance and taking out taxes and explaining to your child why you taking out this 20%, you feel me? Yeah, they'll be mad at the beginning, but guess what? Over time, they'll start to get an understanding. See, that's my whole thing. It's all about the mindset. And, if you got young children, I suggest that. You know what I'm saying? You give them an allowance, take taxes out of that. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to get them into that mentality. Just like, if somebody teaching negative stuff, right? You know what I'm saying? If they constantly seeing negativity, constant negativity, most of the time, what are they going to do? They're going to flock to the negativity because that's what they're seeing the most. So if you start flipping that into something positive, and having them have a better understanding of, you know, so the basic level of taxes, and then eventually that'll build into something bigger. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, if you plan on opening a business, start to understand deductions. They have so many different books. They also have financial classes you can take. I mean, there's so many different avenues. And then, of course, we're in a digital era. Everything is Googleable. You know what I mean? You can just use your Googles. I mean, it's so many different things. And then you have people, you may have folks in your family, friends, co-workers, you know what I'm saying? Where if somebody is some type of entrepreneur, you might be one yourself. The thing of it is, I personally feel when it comes to children, you need to expose them as early as that you feel is fit for them. You know what I mean? As early as possible, to start to build up that understanding of, hey man, when you out here in the real world, you know what I'm saying? There's life choices, and then there's life consequences that you're going to have to deal with based on your actions. And just because you don't know something, you didn't know what to put on your tax, you know what I'm saying, on your W-4, you know what I'm saying? You out here taking not taking enough money out for your taxes, or not understanding deductions. At the end of the day, when IRS do an audit on you, they don't care about who you had prepare your taxes. They're going to come after you. You feel me? So I just personally feel like that mentality got to change, man. You feel me? And this is part of the process. If you have little kids, you want to start explaining to them, hey, the reason why I'm taking this taxes out, this 20% out, you know what I'm saying? Is because as you become of age, you need to understand what your taxes are. Huh? So I said that to say this also for adults or teenagers becoming adults. When do you start to treat yourself like a business? You know what I'm saying? Like, really think about what I'm saying. Treating yourself like a business. Because believe it or not, in my opinion, once you're born in America and you have a social security number, you know what I'm saying? Once you have a social, that is your business license to a degree, because a lot of jobs won't hire you. You don't have a social security number, right? Or some type of EIN number. You have to have some type of taxable number that they can use when you want to work for these corporations, small or big. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that's your first level of business right there. You could be working for a fast food restaurant. You could be working for mom and pops, a business. But at the end of the day, you still a business. Now, how you conduct your business, that's where it's all on you. And for my subscribers, you know what it is when I talk about keeping a clean face. It's important for you to keep a clean face. Your digital reputation. That's where we at. Everything is online, right? Everything is searchable to a degree. So just think about that, right? So when do you start to treat yourself like a business? You know what I'm saying? Because yeah, jobs can check your reference, but also they're gonna when you have if you have an interview, they're gonna want you to sell yourself to them for you to get whatever job you're looking for, right? See, whether you have the interview online or in person, they still want you to sell yourself like what? A business. To work for somebody else's business. Because as at some point in time, if you're looking to open up your own business, you still need to have an understanding, right? You would have to take some classes, work underneath somebody. So it's the mentality. I feel like that's the first step that you have to have. You know what I'm saying? Because for me personally, for one of my first jobs ever, I was actually still in middle school. I want to say I was in seventh grade, and I used to deliver papers where, to all my OGs, you know what that is. But back in the days, they used to get papers to deliver. You know what I'm saying? Because cell phones, it was around, but not everybody could afford them because it was super expensive back in the days. Excuse me. So a lot of people used to read the daily newspaper, and I'm in the seventh grade, waking up early in the morning before I go to elementary. I'm delivering newspapers in the morning. You see what I'm saying? And that was part of me getting an understanding of what I didn't know at the time, but later on in life, that was me getting a structure of getting up, doing extra things other than what I'm required to do. I'm required to go to school. I don't necessarily have to work a job because, of course, I'm a teenager, a young teenager at that. But my thing was, you know what I'm saying? I like, even at a young age, I like, you know what I'm saying, to buy things that I wanted to buy. You know what I'm saying? Coming from my mom house, I love her to death. Single mom. You know what I'm saying? And so she only can do so much. And back then, the Reeboks was popping. You know what I mean? I wanted the fresh new Reeboks. So basically, I ended up delivering newspapers. So, you get a check, you get it paid at the end of the month. I got a few $100s. I wouldn't cop me a couple of new pair of Reeboks. And what I was teaching myself, which I didn't know, but what I started to understand over time is that what was I doing? I had a routine. I get up in the morning before school, while most kids are sleeping, I'm up a couple of hours early delivering some newspapers. Then I go, get myself ready, get ready to go to school. So it's like I have a routine I'm doing, but look what I'm setting myself up for. Like I'm delivering these papers, come back, get my, take a shower, get dressed, go to school. You know, I'll get paid at the end of the month. That was like my allowance. So I'm starting to understand money at a young age. I'm starting to understand, oh, if I got $200, if I buy these shoes, they $70 a piece, that's $140. If I only got $200, that leaves me with $60. Now I want to get a couple of t-shirts. Man, so now I'm starting to understand the value of the money. So how can I make this money stretch? I'm learning this in seventh grade. Do you feel me? You see what I'm saying? So it's like, when do you start to have that understanding? And also, if you're a parent, you have your little kids, when do you feel it's necessary to start teaching your kids the basic fundamentals of finances to a degree. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that also can help them be more successful in life early. You know what I'm saying? Because you exposing them to more, you know what I'm saying, to more experiences of what the real life is about at an early age. You see what I'm saying? See, it's all about the mentality. You can either have the mentality of something negative, or you can bring it into something in your mind more positive for yourself, for your family, your loved ones, your kids, so on. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to really think about that. It's like, what type of mentality do you want to have for yourself? What type of mentality do you want your children to have? And it's just something I'm just thinking, because I was just like, man, when do you start to treat yourself like a business? Huh? Some people feel like they don't consider themselves a business until they get a business license. But to me, it started way before that. It started way before you go to school or go to college, or, it's you getting that mental mindset of what's required of you, or having an understanding of, hey, if I want to do this, or if I want to buy this, how much money will I actually need? So you starting to learn, for me at a young age, delivering those newspapers, collecting money at the end of the month. You know what I'm saying? And having this amount, X amount of dollars for me to spend, I'm learning the value of the dollar and how far a certain amount of money will go for me. You know what I'm saying? So just really think about that. So that's my question to anybody watching this, is that, A, if you have children, when do you feel it's necessary or appropriate for you to introduce your children to, like, the basic knowledge of finances and, you know, things of that nature, you know? And then B, if you an adult, you're a young adult, young teenage adult, when do you treat yourself like a business? Is it in high school, junior high, or when you go to college, when you graduate college, so when you get a trade? When is that mindset of you treating yourself like a business? And when I say that, right, especially for a young adult or adults in general, just think about it. Whatever you do working for a corporation, you representing that business. You may, work a cashier, you may be doing whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to be that type of job. It could be a corporate, a desk job, whatever. You're representing the company you work for, but at the same time, they're expecting a certain level of understanding from you to complete whatever they need you to do, right? What is that? That's business. So I personally feel we all are walking and talking business, but how you conduct your business will determine your success. Huh? You either going to be working towards building your own business, or you're going to be working to build somebody else's business. But either way, you still a business for them, because they need you to produce whatever they need from you to keep their business going, for their business to strive, to be successful, or continue to be successful. So they need you to have that business mentality in the terms and conditions based on whatever their policy is. They want you to have that understanding. So when you go out into the workplace and you work for them, even though it's their business, but you own your own personal self as a business. That's why they hired you. Do you feel? You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying now. I'm just thinking. If you agree, let me know. If you don't, you got a comment, leave a comment. You know what I'm saying? Cause I just be thinking about stuff like that. Like I really be thinking about it like that. Cause it's like, whether you have your own personal business or you're working for a business, you still a walking, talking business. Cause they need you to function at the best of your ability to produce whatever they hired you for, right? Or if you traveling for the company, they want you to represent their business as a business, right? Come on now. So how early in life do you start to represent yourself like a business, huh? You know what I mean? Like really think about that, you know? Now everybody's a business, but how successful your business is all determined on you. You know what I mean? I'm just thinking about that, right? Like your success is predicated on your action. Whether you're working for yourself or you're working for somebody else, they still expect a certain type of level of business ethic, excuse me, I can't even say it correctly. They're looking for a certain type of business ethic from you to represent their business and how you conduct business. Do you feel me? You know what I'm saying? So that's my thing, man. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I feel like. So when do you start to treat yourself like a business? You know? Because I feel like for me and for those who my day one subscribers, when I talked a lot about my personal life and things I've been through and some of my success, I feel like the reason why I had success in my early 20s more than anything was my business mentality, my business thinking. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not here to brag or anything, but I bought my first house at 25. I stay in the Bay Area, Oakland area, Richmond, basically Richmond area. It's close to Oakland, but I bought a brand new house out in Sacramento, California. Back in the early 2000s. You know what I'm saying? No college degree, but you know what I was good at and what I'm still good at today was my hustle mentality, that go get it mentality. I had that for a very long time, and I always had that drive, that motor in me because maybe early on when I mentioned, when I had that paper route, that was my first job. Once I seen those dollars come in and I was able to spend it on the things I like, it's just like a light bulb went off in my head where I had to continue figuring out what's the next play. And as I got older, became a young adult, I had the knowledge of the basics of how to manage my money because from seventh grade, I think I did the delivered papers probably for like 2 years. So from seventh grade to ninth grade, I delivered papers, and then eventually that shut down. But that kind of got the ball rolling for me and my mental mind, hustling mindset, where that's where I started to get that basic knowledge understanding back then. So then once I started working for different corporations and small businesses later on in life, I had that understanding to from the basic level, but I did have somewhat of an understanding back then from all that experience. You know what I'm saying? So it's like To me, that's the thing. The earlier you get exposed to it and you able to absorb some of that information later on in life when you start making a lot more money and you remember how when you first was getting those couple of hundred or whatever it was, whether if you spent it fast, you spent it slow, you start getting a pattern and start to get that understanding. So my question is, how soon do you start discussing finances or showing your kids finance if you have some or if you plan on? And even as an adult, as a young adult, when do you start to treat yourself like a business? Because there are good business owners and there are horrible business owners. You know what I'm saying? So which one are you? You know? I'm just thinking, right? Like to me, once you start to treat yourself like a business, right? That means wherever you working at, you're gonna go, to the highest level or try to produce at the highest level that you can, right? At least that's my mentality. You know what I mean? If I was the cook, eventually I'm gonna want to be the crew lead. You feel me? Then I want to go into management, be a supervisor or something like that. It's like to me, I'm never satisfied with just the basic regular degla. No. Now I will accept that just to get the ball rolling to, get things going for myself. But that's why I say, when do you start to treat yourself like a business? I feel like it begins before you become a teenager. I feel like when you a little kid getting allowance, like I said earlier, if you have little kids, let's say you give your kid $10 a day or $20 a week, I would recommend taking taxes out of that money. You feel me? Because you want to show your children that, hey, you got to pay taxes on this, especially in America. You know what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure almost in any other country. I know some certain countries it varies, but in America, you got to pay taxes out here. So the sooner you get, if you have children, once you get your kids to get that understanding later on in life when they start making money, they could already have an idea of what their taxes should look like to a degree. You know what I mean? Or what to look out for, because that's another factor. But it has to be in the mental, the mindset. And especially if you looking to open up your own business, taxes, deductions. I mean, yeah, you can pay somebody to do your taxes, but guess what? If somebody do your taxes and they make an error on that, when IRS check that paperwork, they're not gonna go after whoever prepared the taxes. They coming for you. You feel me? So I just personally feel like the sooner you start to treat yourself like a business, and if you have kids, show them, you know, baby steps on what's the process of taxes and understanding the value of okay, if you have this amount of money, what you can afford and what you can't, it's all important, man. You know, it really is. Because you hear about so many different type of like celebrities, having tax problems later on in life. Some people feel like, taxes is a scam. I'm like, I don't believe that. You know what I'm saying? You like the stoplights, huh? That your street have. You know what I'm saying? That take tax money. You know what I'm saying? If you got a bridge, you cross a bridge to go to work or, a bridge to leave out of your city, that costs money. That takes so I'm just saying, when do you start to treat yourself like a business? And then also, if you treat yourself like a business, like a young adult, that means you got to understand that, hey, man, I can't be out here doing reckless things, getting charges, going to jail. Nah, bruh. Because guess what it does to your business? You know what I'm saying? It makes you have no business. You feel me? You going to jail, you got felony charges. Now you have limited business access. You feel me? Because just like, when you're working for somebody, you have good bosses and you have horrible bosses, right? It's like that movie, Horrible Boss. But just follow me though. We all bosses in our life based on our circumstances, based on, how you treat yourself, how you conduct yourself. So my question is, when do you start to treat yourself like a business? You know what I'm saying? That's my question. You know what I mean? And it's like, even with kids, I personally feel like you need to start as soon as they start to get be cold. In my opinion, this is my opinion. Soon as your child start to get an understanding of dollar and costs, or something close to that, that's when I feel like you need to start teaching them the basic things of money and the cost of things, why you have to go to work. Even for my oldest daughter, you know what I'm saying? When I used to work, I mean, I still work a lot, but when she used to be, liking a lot of nice things that I bought her, and I used to always tell her, like, the reason why you're able to have these toys, and when school season and school year come around, we able to, I'm going to the mall, we buying this, we buying that. That's because your dad has to go to work. So even though I may be out working late hours, this is what it takes for you to have those Jordans on your feet. You know what I'm saying? For you to get them Christmas gifts, you know what I'm saying? And had a Christmas tree just filled with all type of gifts and stuff like that. The reason why you're able to have that opportunity and have these gifts is because your daddy go to work, and this what it takes. You feel me? So whether you work for somebody or you have your own business, you got to put in that work. But you also want to explain, especially if you have kids, in my opinion, once they become up to a certain age, to have them have a better understanding of what it takes for you to give them what they want, or what you feel that you want to give to them. You feel me? So that's my question, and I'm just thinking, you know. And if anybody want to come up here, I got the link in the chat. You know what I'm saying? If you feel like you want to discuss anything, you can definitely drop the link in there. Come on up and we can have a discussion live. You know what I'm saying? Live on the video tonight, huh? More than welcome. Just keep it respectful. It's all good. But my thing is that personally feel like once the mentality change, or you have a certain type of mentality or aura in your household in a positive way, I feel like that's when you start to have more positive results, not just for yourself, but anybody that you upbringing, that you raising, or somebody that's looking up to you. It's all based on you. If you're a parent, it's based on your actions first. You know what I mean? So just something I had on that. And then I did want to talk about, the hip hop. I feel like with hip hop, right? Some people feel like, hip hop is a negative rap, whatever you want to call it, hip hop rap. It's only about a whole bunch of negativity. And I highly disagree with that, because I'm in my 40s. I remember going to the record store and buying cassette tapes. That's hella old school, hella throwback, right? You know what I mean? So I grew up on hip hop. I mean, I didn't have a father in a household like that. So, uh, hip hop kind of raised me to a degree. Now, I'm not gonna say everything in hip hop was like all positive. Oh no, because when I was coming up, you had the NWAs, you had the Ghetto Boys, and one thing I can say about the '90s, because I'm mostly '90s. You know what I'm saying? My teenage years was in the '90s. So for me, with hip hop in the '90s, I could say this. Yeah, you did have your, you know what I'm saying, your gangster music. You know, you had your hustler music. Your player music, but you also had positive too. Because when NWA was out, you eventually got a group like De La Soul. You know what I'm saying? So when NWA was out, you had the Ghetto Boys. You know what I'm saying? So you always had a yin and a yang through the '90s, in my opinion. Not everything was positive, of course. I'm not gonna say that it was, but it wasn't all bad all the time. You know what I'm saying? Because when NWA was out, you had LL Cool J was out. You know, so it's like you always had a balance to a degree. If you want the gangster, we got that. You know what I'm saying? You want something a little bit more positive and culture driven. You had your De La Souls. You know what I'm saying? You had LL. You had eventually you start and then with the De La Souls. You also that brought you Tribe Called Quest, the Jungle Brothers, Queen Latifah. I mean, so it's like through the '90s you had a balance, in my opinion. You had Thug Bone and Harmony. I mean, it was so many groups. It was so many rappers and that came out, but you had somewhat of a balance back then. And what I could say as a young teenager, I learned a lot. You know what I'm saying? Because just as much as you had the ratchet side, even in the gang type songs, your MC8s, if you go back and listen to a lot of that material, yeah, they'll talk about what they was doing to individuals, right, on a negative way, in a negative way, right? But they also told you how it ended for them. And a lot of times when you listen to them hardcore, back then they used to call it hardcore rap. When you listen to that gangster hardcore rap, if you pay attention to what they talked about, a lot of times they'll tell you that it didn't end well for them. So yeah, they went out and they did some criminal activity, but at the end of that song, they would tell you how they either A was in prison, you know what I'm saying? They didn't make it. You know what I'm saying? They done lost loved ones, they done lost money, they got jacked, they went crazy. So they gave you everything you was looking for. You wanted that gangster, they give you that. But they also give you the results of that action. They show you, okay, I went out and did this to this person. They came back and retaliated on me and my people. You know what I'm saying? So for me personally, I'm a big fan of hip hop. I still am today in my 40s. You know what I'm saying? I still love hip hop. I like a lot of the new artists. And of course, I love a lot of artists from the '90s because that was my era. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got their own era of, what they felt that they really loved, especially if you came up listening to it as a young adult. So it's like, I really don't like, I really dislike when a lot of people be like, oh, rap is negative or, oh, it's all, you know, negative music. And I disagree with that. Now, today's generation, okay, I can kind of, it is a little choppy because they don't give you the yin and the yang, or they don't promote it unless you a Kendrick or a J. Cole or, what I'm saying, a Drake type or something like that. They don't promote both sides as equal as they used to back in the days. And it probably wasn't even equal, but it's just that you had so many different type of styles because NWA was a big group, right? But Ghetto Boys didn't sound like NWA. They were similar, but they had their own style. You know what I'm saying? And De La Soul, Outkast, they didn't sound alike. They had their own different style. You feel me? So it's like I feel like the people that be quick to say, hip hop is a negative, music, or it only talk about negativity, I gotta disagree with that because I grew up on hip hop. You feel me? I remember going back to I can tell you going back when I used to go and buy albums, went to the record store. This is way before the streaming era. You had to physically buy the CD or even cassette at one point. You used to buy cassette tape, right? Oof, that's throwback for you. And at one point in time, when the group Two Live Crew with Luke, their music was pretty raunchy. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty. I'll say that was kind of like the ratchet of the generation was the Ghetto Boy. I mean, excuse me, the Two Live Crew, which I did like some of their songs, but their songs were very explicit, right? So I remember when they came out, they started getting into legal issues, and they was trying to ban, or they did ban their album or whatever. Because at that time, I didn't even know. I was a young, you know what I'm saying, real young. It didn't have the parental advisory on the sticker. You know what I mean? Excuse me, parental advisory sticker was not on the album. And so they went to court, and from my understanding, they beat the charges, but they made sure to add a parental sticker on their album. So any album that came out after Two Live Crew, if you was doing a lot of cussing, a lot of profanity, sexual content, you had to have a parental advisory sticker on the album. So back then, just to give you a little bit more backdrop on that information, right? So if the album had the parental sticker, you have to be, I want to say 17 or older to buy the album. And when the sticker was put on the albums back then, I wasn't 17. I was probably like 14, 13, 14, but I wanted that album. I wanted it on a cassette tape back then. Had my little Walkman, you know what I mean? So, I had a little peach fuzz. I had a little bit of facial hair at 13, 14. So I used to pass like I was old enough to buy the album, but I wasn't. But they sold it to me though. So back then, I think I bought an LL Cool J album, and I bought, who else I bought? I can't remember. But just think about that. Back in the days, they had it where they was trying to block rappers from putting albums, in the stores because they didn't have a parental sticker on there, And so, thanks to Luke and Two Live Crew, they came out with the parental advisory sticker, and then everything was fair game after that. Now, fast forward till today, nobody even care about that, right? My goodness, right? But back then, it was a major issue. So shout out to Two Live Crew and Luke, man. Shout out to the whole Florida. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Luke, man. You know? So I'm saying all that to say this. That's why I say hip hop helped raise me, you know? Let me know about what type of females to look out for, who's scandalous, who's scamming. You know what I mean? They'll tell their stories about either what they went through or what their partners went through. And I know a lot of it wasn't real, but from what I can understood or what was said that I felt that was relating to me, it definitely helped me in my life. You feel me? Because I never been to prison, and I listened to a whole bunch of gangster rap back then, and I never been to prison. You know what I'm saying? I never slid on my ops. You feel me? I mean, I had a couple of fades I had to do as a young teenager. I give you that, but it wasn't behind rap though. You know what I mean? So I just hate when people give hip hop or a rap a bad rap because the popular songs may talk about selling drugs or pimping or whatever it is, but that's not the whole story. You feel me? There's a whole lot more to it, and there's a whole lot more artists out here that offer you different type of material than what they're giving to you on the radio station, huh? I'm just saying though. I'm just thinking, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's my thing, right? They be like, "Oh man, you listening to hip hop? Yeah, what? And what? You know what I'm saying? What's up?" You know? But I'm trying to think though. I know they had came out with the top 50 New York rappers. I feel like, ooh, excuse me. I feel like we need to do a top 50 West Coast rappers too, or California rappers. How about that? I'll say West Coast though. I'm trying to think, man, who would I have on that list? Favorite West Coast. That's a good question. You know? So what can I say? What do I know, huh? But with hip hop, man, I mean, you had so many different. What's missing hip hop is the groups, man. I do miss the groups. Your brand Nubians, like I said, your ghetto boys, and I mean, used to be some groups definitely in the '90s, and just slowly just faded away. But that was a great time, and definitely a great time was the '90s for sure. That's where a lot of people getting all these samples from. I mean, other than the old school samples, but a lot of people sampling a lot of the '90s and early 2000 hits. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you know. So, shout out to hip hop. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much all I had tonight. So, just want to appreciate y'all watching this live, watching on the playback. Definitely leave a comment. I appreciate it. Let's see, and I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. All right. Well, y'all take care of yourself. Until next time. Peace.